Hi, and welcome to Two Guys Philosophise with Sean Lake and Peter Wise. Today's episode is called Epigenetics, which is the science of mind over matter and the power of thoughts. Plus, we'll be chatting about lots of other interesting stuff as well. Do enjoy, and please remember to subscribe.
Okay, hello again. We're back.
Hiya,
once
everyone.
more. This morning,
We're back, but we're flatter.
we're what?
We're back, but we're flatter.
We're flatter.
Yeah.
Well, when Sean came, I have to admit, I'm feeling exhausted today, and I was in a bit of a kind of anxious mood this morning. It's Saturday today. I've had a hell of a week.
It's been a long.
I mean,
week, yeah.
standing in queues to get documents and being told the wrong information, and having to go back and forward and go out and buy so many things. This week for me has been just non-stop, and I think actually I'm just exhausted from it all, and I think that's why, you know, when Sean arrived this morning I was feeling a little bit cacked, but it also could just be wind. I've been belching a lot this morning, so I'm not really
I
sure.
feel so much more comfortable sitting next to you right now. So.
I had a nice chat with Sean, and I actually feel a lot better now. And I kind of said to him, you know, what happened is I'm an adopted baby. I was an adopted baby, and I never knew my family's medical history. I did know that my birth mother died when she was 92. But I don't know what of. And I just found out last week that my birth father, had died aged 58 of a heart attack. Now I'm 57, so I thought, yeah. So happens I had an appointment with a doctor, and I told him this information, and he kind of, I don't know, he had some sort of effect on me. It put me in a bit of a shock, really. He's now sent me to a cardiologist. No, you must get your heart checked out and everything like that. Now, as you guys may or may not know, I used to be the greatest worry in the world. I've learnt coping mechanisms these days to deal with that. But sometimes you're just anxious, and it just doesn't go away for a day or two. And I was anxious. I was worried this morning. I thought, oh my God, you know, now my medical history's come into question, and, you know, Sean knows an awful lot about healing, and we got into talking about the fact that I needed to do exercise. They're going to put me on a treadmill and test my heart and all this thing. And then we got talking about how people, you know, back in the 1980s, it was an incredible fad, jogging. People do it today all over the place, and there's no scientific evidence to suggest that if you jog, that your lifespan will increase.
None at all.
So, and then we got to talking about, you know, bodybuilding and the reasons people do these things, and the right ways they're doing it and the wrong ways they're doing it. And you explained to me quite nicely about this kind of stuff. So,
well, where would you like me? Let me start from the beginning. Okay, so what I was saying to Peter earlier on is that essentially from my understanding, our bodies were designed to work. They were designed to be under some kind of pressure or stress, and that doesn't necessarily have to be a negative pressure or stress. I mean, it could be something like exercise, but our bodies need to be working to be optimal. If they stop working, they start deteriorating. Any doctor will tell you that. Any health guru will tell you exactly. I will tell you exactly the same thing. So, the body wears down as well. Brain fog.
yeah, no, that's okay. I mean, I'm just sitting here thinking now, how worried should I actually be?
Yeah. Well, so doctors essentially are there to make you a little bit paranoid, because they're there to motivate you to go and do something about it. Because
Buy
when
pills.
we were buy pills, but we were sitting here and you were talking about, like, you may have, you know, a potential to have a cardiac problem, but you puffing on a cigarette.
Yeah, I got some lung problems as well.
So although we might have the potential for these things, we've also got the technology to find out that we have the potential, and because we have that technology and we know we have the potential to having cardiac issues, we know that we should not be doing certain things and that we should be doing other things, and thereby we have the survival advantage. So you don't necessarily have to die. You've just got a pre-warning. Hey, you're more likely to, if you don't.
Well,
that genetic thing's got an if. It's always got an if. It's a switch.
What do you mean by an F?
Well, because if you have a predisposition to being schizophrenic, it's if.
Right.
It's only this happens, if that happens, if this happens.
Then,
it doesn't mean you're going to be schizophrenic or have schizophrenic tendencies. Or
no, that's very interesting. You have a genetic propensity towards something, and then your life circumstances can have a lot to do with
the outcome, with how
outcome.
That switch is,
that genetic switch
is
worked or not.
Yeah.
But so as well as having this ridiculously long week, it was quite good actually, because I've learned to train myself, and at the end of every day last week, I said to myself, well, that day didn't go as planned, but what the hell? I'm not going to cry about having to wait a couple of hours in a queue when there's people in this world who don't have food to eat. And that's how I've trained myself not to get angry, and not to worry so much anymore. But, I'm a great believer in the power of the mind, and the power of mind over matter. Now, I can either sit here and worry about my smoking and worry about my heart, or I can put out positive thoughts that I'm not going to die of a heart attack. I'm going to be one of those people who manages to live until his 90s.
Somehow I think you're looking for a cheat code, and somehow
you said I was in denial.
Somehow I think that's not the right cheat code.
No.
Denial.
Maybe you don't get what I'm saying. I truly believe that if every day I put out positive thoughts, that I am not necessarily going to die of a complex pulmonary disorder, breathing problems, or a heart attack. If I consciously put out those thoughts that I'm not going to die of those two things, it's far better for me and for my anxiety levels than thinking I'm going to die of a heart attack next year.
Okay, but wouldn't it be better for your anxiety levels if you took this into account? So for anything to change in your life, we know you need the motivation. We also know you need to take the action. Okay, so you are going to have the propensity to have a heart attack, and you're going to have COPD, until you take action. That's the way the world works. So I don't think by sitting here and going my life is perfect, my body is healthy, and then digging into an error bar is like how the universe works.
Okay.
I think you need to have an impetus, and that needs to be your intent, and your intent needs to have energy behind it, and unfortunately energy is effort, and it's a physical thing, and we have to do it, and to actually do it is the thing.
No,
it's not what we used to. Stop smoking then. Stop smoking then.
I'm not doing exercise. Okay, I'm not ready to stop smoking yet.
So,
and the Buddha was a hugely obese man who sat around all day doing nothing, and he was a great man. I don't know how old the Buddha was when he died. But anyway,
I don't know if you realise that he wasn't fat at all.
Oh no! But all the statues,
that's because you rub his big tummy for luck.
Is it?
Yes.
Oh, well, there you go. Interesting fact. You heard that here first.
The Buddha was not fat. Okay, that's the laughing Buddha. That's called the laughing Buddha. So there are different types of Buddha consciousness in Buddhism. That's the laughing Buddha. You rub his tummy and he brings you good luck.
Different types of
the Buddha himself, Siddhartha, was a vegetarian very strictly, and as you know, it's very hard to be fat if you're a vegetarian.
No, that's not actually true, because I became vegetarian 2 years ago, and within a year I put on 10 kilos. But I think that's just because I was eating bread and potatoes all the time.
Probably, yeah.
But Sean, I do firmly believe in the power of mind over matter, and that phrase was in fact first coined by a gentleman called Charles Lyell in his work on the evolutionary growth of the mind. However, it was referred to, which, by the way, Sean did this research. I'm reading it, so I look like the clever one. That phrase was also, a similar phrase was heard used by the poet Virgil in the year 19 BC, and that phrase was, "The mind drives the mass." So there is an awful lot of, I have to keep training myself, as a therapist. This is what I do. I try and help my clients understand that their conscious thoughts affect who they are, and I have to practice what I preach. Sometimes it's not easy, but at least I understand that coping mechanism, and it's basically down to positive affirmations. We've known about that for a long time, but some people just sort of wipe it away as, it's just a saying, it doesn't do anything. They do. Positive affirmations work.
They definitely
depression,
do
anxiety.
on many levels, not only on spiritual, physical, and mental. There's a whole lot of levels that they work on. But sorry, I just wanted to confirm that with you because it's so important. It's like positive affirmations. When you get up in the morning, what's the first thing you say to yourself? Oh God, no, shit, work.
Well, this is actually interesting you brought this up, because
do you wake up and go, oh God, I've taken another breath. Oh, it's awesome. I'm awake. I'm going to deal with people. I'm going to have problems. I'm going to have issues. I'm going to have wonderfully exciting things happen to me today that I don't expect. Come surprise me.
Well, this is actually quite interesting because I wake up every morning in a slightly different mood. I don't know if any of you guys if anyone listening or watching can relate to this, or if you can relate to this.
I wake up every morning. I wake up depressed, but we've got to be honest. We'll go into that. We'll go into that. Yeah.
But the moods that I have during my first hour or two of the day, I can't really describe what they are. They're not. They're sort of maybe a cross between either waking up and feeling great, wow, this is going to be a really nice day, or feeling a little bit low, or feeling a little bit anxious, or feeling a little bit sick, or I don't know. Every day I seem to wake up in a slightly different mood, which writes itself as a day.
Have you ever heard of a term called hypnagogia?
Hypnagogia, I have actually, but I have no idea what it means.
Okay, well, hypnagogia is that state that you're in between sleep and wakefulness. So before you wake in the morning, you generally enter this phase where you're awake. It's pretty much like lucid dreaming. You're waking up, but you're still kind of half asleep, and you kind of like becoming more and more conscious. For me personally, my experience is as I become more conscious, so the realities of this world and the pressure and comes down on me, and I start feeling the anxiety and I start feeling the depression. And at that point, in that state of hypnagogia, I haven't even opened my eyes yet. It's called hypnagogia for a reason. It's because you can program your mind in that state. You're in a state of basically MK Ultra control, but you're in control of it. In that state, like I can look at that descending cloud, because I know it's going to come. It's happened the whole of my life. It's not going to go away, and I know that. But I can know, I can expect it. I can see it coming, and I can go. But okay, before it hits me, before I open my eyes today, like what am I going to decide? Am I going to be unhappy? Am I going to be happy? Am I going to let this affect me? Am I going to let this not affect me? So I think that state of hypnagogia that one enters before one becomes conscious is very vital in determining the outcome of your day, and also the mood that you wake up in.
Right.
And I think if you can use that as a tool, if you can remain in that state, if you can become conscious, remain in that hypnagogic state, you have wonderful access, hypnotic access to your subconscious, and you can program your subconscious. You can say, I'm going to have a good day.
Well, that's what
I'm going to be motivated today. I'm going to meet interesting people today. You're in that place of no existence and existence. You're in the in-between world. You're in the
dream world.
The dream world, the spiritual world,
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what I did this morning, and that's pretty much what I do every morning. I have to do it.
Well, I have to
otherwise,
as well. But I wonder how many people out there know that would be helpful for them.
Yeah,
when they wake up.
It's not just a saying. You have to talk yourself into being in a good mood. You have to talk yourself, convince yourself that whatever is going to happen to you today, you're going to be able to cope with it. I try and do that for myself, and it's helped me an awful lot. These last few years. But there's other things that are happening in my life at the moment, and sort of talk about me again. Sorry. I've given up playing music now, and I've been a musician all my life and played everywhere. And that's 'cause Sean said to me, quite correctly, that's like a death. And I'm also kind of in a mourning period.
Yeah, you need to mourn that.
I've also given up my work as a psychotherapist, and I'm going to be mourning that. And I've taken up doing these podcasts now, and I've written a couple of books. So my life is really changing now.
I just need to support what you're saying and just give it a little bit more power, because I don't think that the people who are watching this understand how involved and dedicated and focused you were on what you were doing, on the music and on the therapy. That was your existence.
Yeah.
That was what you did, and it's what you did very, very, very well. You did that. Well, I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. I don't have to. But that's what you did, and you did it very, very well. And now things are changing, and there's new things to look forward to. But Jesus, that's got to be a hell of a lot to let go of.
It is, and it's a gradual process of letting go. And I think it's like life is a river. Life is always changing, and I think that the people who can adapt to change, people who can bend and go with the flow of life, are the people who will survive the best, and have the best attitudes.
And you know what? That links into our conversation earlier about stresses. The people who can handle stresses subconsciously, mentally, physically, the people who constantly challenging themselves with those stresses are the healthier people mentally. I think.
I really need
you're going to be healthier after you've gone through this process of death and walking into your new life, and where you understand what I'm saying?
I'm going to be healthier.
You're going to be healthier.
Okay, so even with you see where we've gone. Even with the cigarettes and the knowledge that I might be prone to having a heart attack, my life will get better because I can use my mind. I can use my conscious thinking to reduce my stress.
Your life, yes. On
Stress,
that level, yes.
To me, is actually worse than having a heart condition or a lung condition, because if I had I've got a lung condition, maybe a heart condition. If I'm stressed out every day on top of that, it's hardly going to make it better. So I have to find a way to accept it and say, okay, that's fine. I'll still get on with my day.
According to Van der Graaf, I think he's Van der Graaf, Professor Van der Graaf. I think he is with UCT, and he is very into life extension and how we could achieve eternal life. And he basically. You put me off.
Eternal life.
Eternal life. Yeah. But where were you?
Brain thing.
You with the.
I can't remember. Yeah, I've warned you before that we do have these brain fogs. We were just talking about how positive. If I think that I'm going to die, if I keep on worrying and stressing out about smoking.
Oh, okay, all right. So yes,
yeah.
Okay, so in Van der Graaf's studies, he found out that only around about, if we had eternal life, if we had the ability to be healthy forever, only around about 5% of people would ever get the opportunity to take advantage of that, because we generally die by accident. We die by things that we're not expecting.
Yeah.
So the chances that you're going to die of a cardiac arrest because your grandfather had a propensity means that you've got like a quarter of that propensity, number one. Like, number two, I would rather, as I was saying to you earlier, die of a quick heart attack than have a lingering episode. So I would look at it like that. if I wanted to be fearful of it, I'd say, well, at least it's like quick and easy, and I'm not going to have to go through too much. But the chances of that happening before you die...
Yeah, but I'd write the worst script for that. I'd write 6 heart attacks over a period of 12 years, most of which time I spent in great pain in hospital. But you told me something earlier that your grandmother said about something about dying. Can you remember what it was?
So my grandmother, she was a very, very wise woman, and she always used to tell us as kids. I had this conversation with her when I was a youngster, and it started off with the whole question of you live with the sword, die with the sword. So I really wanted clarification on that, so we spoke about it. And her take on it was that what you fear in your life is what will take your life. So what you fear in your life is what you will end up dying from.
Right.
That would be your that would be your demise. Okay.
Right.
So that was basically her whole
little
take
saying,
on it, her little take on it. And,
but
it's pretty accurate if you think about it, in the long term, because now that I'm 52 and now that I've gone through my life with a fear of suffocation because of an incident that happened when I was a child, I now, as an adult, have COPD. Okay, which is a breathing problem.
Disorder.
Okay, which is a breathing disorder. So yes, going back to our previous question, I think we do create.
I mean, but that is the big question. What your grandmother said may or may not have been true. I mean, this is what I like to talk about, because we're talking about mind over matter.
Yeah.
And we're going to be talking a little bit about the subject of epigenetics if we have enough time, which is something neither of us know much about, but it's certainly fascinating.
And we're learning.
So if your grandmother says your worst fear is what you think about how you're going to die, that's going to be how you die, possibly. But then surely on the other side, if you think about how you don't want to die, then you can bring that into reality. I don't want to die. So like me being a smoker and thinking I'm going to die of lung disease, I'm going to die of lung disease, or I can say, no, I'm not going to die of lung disease. I'm going to be one of those people who survive. Putting out good thought energy, I truly believe, does have an effect. Although some people would just say, Pete, you're making excuses, you're in denial, you need to give up smoking. And they may well be right as well. I don't know.
All right. So it seems to be that in the whole formula of the universe, that the universe doesn't accept statements like don't, won't, can't, shan't. It just accepts what the reality is that you put out into the world. So I'd like to liken it to a Xerox copying machine. If you put out, I am not going to die from a heart attack, I'm not going to die from a heart attack, the universe doesn't hear not.
That's ridiculous.
That's
not fair.
I'm going to die from a heart attack, because not is subjective. It's a thing. So what you're doing is you're taking something that's hypothetical and you're making it real.
So I'm still bringing my focus.
So you still bring it. So you shouldn't focus on even the possibility.
Yeah, that I agree on.
You understand?
That's going back to living in the day, enjoying each day one day at a time.
In the now, I want. The other thing is I want to be successful. The universe is going to Xerox copy that to you all the time. I want to be, and you will always want.
You always
to
have
be
just the
successful.
feeling of wanting.
I want, but if you go, I am successful. I am successful, and you think about it, you are successful.
Well, out of how many 80 million sperm, you were the one that made it. I can't believe how.
It was tricky. It was tricky. There was magic involved.
It is, in fact, but it's a complete miracle that any of us are alive. Whatever our circumstances are. But this saying...
we also create by default. I think we create by our expectations. So we have a choice. We can create our day or our lives by default. In other words, just let the default settings run. You wake up, you get on the bus, what happens, you react the way you react, that's by default. Okay, so
right.
Your reality will happen by default.
Okay.
So you are more, the control is left in other people's. It's how they meet you, not how you meet them. Okay, so you're giving other people that energy over your life.
That's why I love this guy, because he thinks sideways.
That's a skew. Skew's a better word.
But look, coming back to this mind over matter business and your dear old grandma, there is now scientific proof that we are able, by the power of our own thought, to alter our genetic makeup to a certain extent.
Yes. And I think we do it every day, although we might not be conscious of it. But I think it's something we do constantly.
Yeah.
Constantly we flipping those switches on and off. But there are some switches that are harder to switch on and off than other switches, and need a bit more effort, and a bit more concentration.
There's some things that we don't have conscious control, over our beating heart or our breathing lungs or the way our stomach works. But epigenetically, if we can train the power of our minds, and even though we don't know what the meaning of the word mind is, but if we can train our minds to overcome our physical problems, then that's a further stage in the evolution of man.
Yeah. Can I challenge your mind and say repetition?
Yes.
So don't you think it's repetition that changes our switches, that would flip our switches, not just the mind? Okay, I think you would need to reinforce the mind with some physical action to solidify what you're wanting. Let's say you're afraid of the dark.
Dun dun dun.
Brain fog. So anyway, afraid of the dark. All right. If that's the case, you can change that by working on it within yourself and saying to yourself, it is totally irrational for me to be afraid of the dark. I'm absolutely safe. There's no need for me to be afraid of the dark. But that is not going to help unless I take some kind of action to prove that thought, or to bring that thought into reality. Spend more time in the dark. If you have to switch the light off, like I always say, dance with your fears.
Confront your fears. Dance with your fears.
Switch the light off for a little bit. You've got the light switch next to you.
Yeah.
You can switch it on whenever you want to.
Yeah.
Just get more comfortable with the light off and start training yourself.
That's actually
flipping those. It's a safe way of
dancing.
It's
a primitive fear to be afraid of the dark. There's no question about that.
And I'm using it as an example because it's so basic and everyone.
Yeah. That suggests to me that this kind of fear is, and all kinds of emotions are genetic, somehow programmed into our genes, and that's why we can use our minds to switch on or off our genes. So I'm just going to read something here. It says the behavior of a person's genes doesn't just depend on the gene's DNA sequence, that's what the gene is. It's also affected by so-called epigenetic factors. Changes in these factors can play a critical role in disease. So bear with me. Diseases are caused by malfunction of the genetic code, by inner or outer events. Pathogens, virus, bacteria, fungi, other microorganisms disrupt normal cell function and affect the DNA coding, causing errors. These can be corrected by thought. Genes are switched on and off to cause disease, but we are now learning how these switches can be reversed through thought alone.
Okay,
powerful. So it is very powerful stuff. There's a lot of stuff about it now on the internet.
A malfunction, though, I have trouble with that. A malfunction of your... I think it's functioning pretty well if your genetics are able to adapt themselves to your current situation. Is that a malfunction or is that an adaptation?
Yeah, it's an adaptation. I mean, it depends, on how you look at it, I suppose.
And maybe some adaptations we carry with us, and we just never think about consciously getting rid of them like that
until this point in our history.
Yeah,
where things might be changing for us. I wanted to read you something else by Dr. Bruce Lipton, who is an expert on epigenetics. He says this: our health is not controlled by genetics. Okay, I mean that's a bit of a mind bender. Our health is not controlled by genetics. Conventional medicine is operating from an archaic viewpoint that we're controlled by our genes. This is a gross misunderstanding of the nature of how biology works. Medicine does miracles, he says, but it's limited to trauma. Doctors of Western medicine regard our physical body like a machine in the same way that an auto mechanic regards a car. When the parts break, you replace them, a transplant, a synthetic joint, or so on. And these are undoubtedly medical miracles. The problem is that while they have an understanding that the mechanism isn't working, they're blaming the vehicle for what went wrong. They believe that the vehicle, in this case our bodies, is controlled by genes. However, what is not taken into consideration is that there is actually a driver in that car. The new science of epigenetics reveals that the vehicles or the genes are not responsible for the breakdown. It's the driver. In essence, if you don't know how to drive, you're going to mess up the vehicle. In the simplest translation, we can agree that lifestyle is the key to taking care of ourselves. Think well, eat well, and exercise, and your body stands less chance of breaking down and needing new parts. That's fine for people with heart disease, diabetes, or obesity, but what about cancer? The big C. I mean, so in all of that, he's basically reinforcing...
What about cancer?
Well, it says here, I don't know how believable this is. I like to think it is, but it says your mind can and does contribute to both the cause and healing of whatever ails you, including cancer.
Oh, including, sorry, I thought
other than the mind, two factors impact the fate of cells, according to Dr. Lipton, and those are toxins and trauma. All three factors have been associated with the onset of cancer: toxins, trauma, and the state of your mind.
Okay, all right.
So the mind is, I suppose it's been heavily researched. I mean, it's a word. Can you tell me what it is? I mean, what's your idea of the mind? I've been struggling for years to find a decent explanation.
I think the whole of mankind has been struggling for years to find an explanation to what the mind is, but the mind is an incredibly powerful thing, and at the end of the day it does control your body, and it does control your fate, and it does control your future, it does control your outlook, it controls the way you see things, it controls the way you filter things. It's a very integral part of our makeup, but I do to some extent think that the mind is molded by our experiences and the information that we are given. Information like you cannot heal yourself, like cancer will kill you,
exactly.
Like you need to be stressed, like you need to be in a state of fear, like you need... My personal story, which I'm just going to rattle off very quickly, is I was diagnosed with cancer. I didn't do the radiation, I didn't do the chemotherapy. Instead of that, I did what I call denial therapy. Not really denial therapy, but it's just putting your mind in a different place. I'm not going to die from lung cancer. Okay, I'm going to be healthy. I'm not going to... And please, this is not medical advice. For God's sake, don't do this. Don't do this. If you get diagnosed with lung cancer, do not fucking do this. It worked for me. I cannot tell you it's going to work for you. And I cannot prove that it even worked for me. But this is how it worked. Diagnosed with cancer. I had x-rays, lung cancer. A couple of years down the line, go back to the doctor after having so-called treated it with holistic means and through meditation and through trying to change it and to working with it and trying to understand it and making friends with it but through that process I truly believe I shifted my reality into another reality, because from a definite case of cancer which was written down on pieces of paper by doctors with x-rays that can prove the whole thing, suddenly my diagnosis over the period of years went from cancer to being, and you've seen the evidence,
yes,
so I'm not bullshitting,
no,
you know,
true.
to those x-rays being taken to an expert like a couple of years later, and that expert saying that is the shadow of 2 nipples on your lungs.
Right.
Okay, so now was you always say to me I should be so angry at that, but I should be so grateful.
Well, grateful, but angry
because
at the doctor.
in my opinion, I shifted my reality. In your opinion, I might be crazy, you might not believe it, it might have been a mistake, it might have been an error, somebody stupid looked at the x-rays, there's 1,001 reasons. In my mind, like I, through because I did consciously meditate, and I'm doing the same thing with my COPD. I've been diagnosed with COPD,
which is complex pulmonary disorder or something.
For smoking for 40 years.
Breathing
so first
problems.
of all, I've got to accept responsibility that like I caused this, like myself. It's not going to disappear, but I do believe that through using meditation, different techniques, I can epigenetically change that somewhat. Now, over the last couple of months that I've been doing this, maybe a coincidence, maybe not a coincidence, maybe I created this in my reality, maybe it's a co-consciousness thing, or so. They've now discovered that people who smoke marijuana can sometimes present as having COPD because smoking marijuana causes a low-grade infection in your chest, which is ongoing because you smoke it all the time. Now that wasn't known. Okay, that wasn't. No, you don't. No, but somebody who isn't me do. So could has the option to, so I believe that I'm slowly over time changing that diagnosis. Maybe not now that I've mentioned it and I've talked about it and I've like made it a thing, but I believe I'm changing that into being something way less harmful than COPD. And Peter will be the first one to tell you that I, with COPD, am incredibly active, incredibly healthy,
rides a bike for kilometers
because
every day.
I don't buy into like that's the definite thing. That's the definite thing. I have an opportunity to change that, I believe, through being able to shift.
You're quite a fascinating bloke, actually.
Well, thank you very much.
Well, look, I mean,
give us money now. Subscribe.
It's quite clear that the ancient mystics, Chinese mystics, Tibetan, whatever, from the Far East mostly, knew about the power of the mind in a way that we seem not to know about these days, because we're trying again to make the mind into something mechanical, something tangible, something we can measure, and we can never never measure the mind, as it were. We can't get any proof of what a mind is. So the ancient philosophers and seekers of wisdom, they had a greater control over the power of their mind, and there are still people in the Far East who meditate all the time. The sadhus, the brahmins, the holy men out there who do incredible things just by the power of their own minds. So for the majority of us, in the Western world have we simply lost our minds?
While you were speaking, I just realized something. All these people that we mentioned that are seeking the mind, seeking the reason, the being, the how it is, what it is, they have literally all been out of their minds. Have you thought about that? Pluto,
No.
Socrates,
Plato.
Pluto. Yeah, Pluto. That's going to go to the
they were.
Yeah.
They
They were
people-
literally out of their minds.
They were the ones who thought out of the box.
Out of the box.
And away from the norm, yeah. And
When you talk about the Oracle of Delphi, like on psychedelic volcanic gases and out of the mind. So that's just very interesting to me, that all these people that are interested in what the mind is seem to only find answers stepping out of it.
What you said to me before was interesting. It's all very well, having these great thoughts and positive affirmations, but you also need to
Put the energy behind
need
it.
to do something about it. But
It's a basic formula. It's a basic formula
No.
of the universe. Yeah.
That's not what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is the action that you talk of.
Yeah.
The thought itself,
No.
because that thought comes from the mind. The mind is what is is the creator, and then that creator becomes a thought through the brain.
Oh, I'm going
So-
to get so esoteric on your ass right now.
Go for it.
Right,
Okay,
here we go. So, in the world of woo-woo, which is the world that I kind of live in, there is an understanding on how we make things manifest in this world, and there are one or two steps that the book has left out. Okay, now your question was: is thought not an action? No.
Yeah.
Okay, so what
It is.
It's not an action. You're not doing anything physical. Can I give you an analogy? So if you in the audience can imagine, if you listen to this on a podcast, me holding up a marble above a glass of water. Okay, that marble being held up by my hand right now, that you can't see, is potential. That's the realm of infinite potentiality. That's the
Okay.
realm of where everything comes from. That's the realm of where things manifest from. Now, that's also the realm that we get our ideas from.
Yes. Agreed.
So we have the idea, which connects to spirit. Okay, what we call spirit. Okay, connects to that vibration. Let's say we want to create a happy day, right? So I've now got this little pebble up here in spirit. Okay, that's there. I've had the thought, which is formed into a little marble. I need to bring that into this world, right? Into this world. Like, the thought's still up there. It's still in spirit. So to do that, I have to drop the marble and just imagine it splashing into a bowl of water. Okay, by dropping the marble, I'm taking the action. And the action is causing the waves to ripple out.
Okay.
Okay, so if I wanted to be healthy, just sitting here and going, I am healthy, I am healthy, I am healthy, I am healthy, is not going to work. That's half of the equation. The next bit of the equation is, I am healthy because I do this. Okay, you've taken an action. I now walk a little bit further. I now do this. So you've taken an action to pull it from spirit into the physical world.
Right.
Okay. Now, the next step, well, the first step is to voice it into this world. That's your first vibration. So, from spirit, you voice that idea, which creates a vibration. That vibration is your voice. Okay?
Right.
The voice of God, the voice of... That vibration vibrates out into the world. So it sets out an intent, it sets out a possibility, it sets out a whole web of things that could be related to that. But by taking an action, you're taking a direction, and you're giving the universe direction on where you want to go. Otherwise, it's just going to create that for you by default.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
So by taking an action, okay, I have COPD, therefore I am going to start walking a little bit more.
Okay. I hear you.
That action sparks the physical manifestation.
I differ in opinion from you. which means you're wrong and I'm right.
Absolutely.
When I say that I believe, I'm of the opinion that thought does not come from the realms of potentiality, the quantum field of probability. That is what our minds are connected to. I believe thoughts only happen once our brain comes into play. Then we get a thought.
Don't you think that there was a thought that created you? Don't you think there was an intent that created you?
Intent.
Is an intent not a thought, a positive thought?
That might be for another podcast, man. That's
No, don't skim over it now. That's like.
I still don't know what created me, other than to say I'm just a conglomeration of tiny little sparks of consciousness which are in every single atom in the whole universe.
The other thing about creation and manifestation that they've left out of all these books, and that is the concept of acceptance. A lot of people will get what they want, but because they've got it so easy, they don't accept it. And because they don't accept it, it comes back again. I.e., I have a gammy leg, bad leg. I work on it, I do all the work, I do all the spiritual work, I do all of it, and suddenly it's better. Like,
yeah.
Why? How can I accept that? If you can't accept that,
yeah.
And I'm gonna give you an easy example. I worked at Sun City for a number of years, and one thing that I realized was that people that won the Dream Machine over R1 million never had any of that money a year later. And in my 9 years of being at Sun City, I realized why, and it was guilt. It was they could not accept that they were just given $1 million. Okay, so what they would do is every weekend they'd come back to Sun City and they'd just throw it into the machines, give it away to people and whatever, because subconsciously they couldn't accept the fact that they didn't work for it, they didn't do anything hard for it, they didn't deserve it. Like, how can I have this?
Yeah.
So they just give it away.
So you talk about acceptance. Yes, definitely. I, for one, accept the fact that we do have the power to control our genes by our thoughts, and we did want to talk a little bit about this epigenetic.
But that leads back into you having to do physical things, though, to change those epigenetic switches.
Yeah, fair enough. Here's something which was written by Lynn McTaggart in an experiment called the intention experiment. She says it's been well documented that directed thoughts can affect a person's own body in numerous ways, but thoughts have also been shown to alter some biological processes in another person, including gross motor movements and those of the heart, eye, brain and respiratory system in another person. Your thoughts can affect another person, is what she's saying. Researchers have demonstrated that deep human intention can affect a variety of other living systems, such as bacteria, mice, cats, dogs, and even the direction in which fish swim. Intention appears to be something akin to a tuning fork, causing the tuning forks of other things in the universe to resonate at the same frequency. These findings totally go against the definition of reality that most of us grew up with. But what if it is true?
Okay, I have a problem with the first part of that statement, because that statement is directly related to placebo effect.
In what way?
Because I as a healer have the authority of being this, like, usually, or as a pastor or as a evangelist or whatever. I have this woo-woo gift that I can cure you, and I'm going to lay hands on you, and you're going to fly across the room, and it's all going to be very dramatic.
You're not going to lay hands on me, bud. Stay away.
And you don't know, I have already. I've changed it. So placebo effect.
But in what respect? But I mean, even if it is only the placebo effect, it still works.
It still works. I'm not saying the placebo. There is actually a field of medicine now that are studying the placebo effect as an actual medicine. There's actually a thing called the nocebo effect now.
Mm-hmm. For all we know, what's known as the junk DNA in our
it's full
DNA
information.
coding might not be junk at all. It might be information on how we can grow a new limb or an extra finger or do some incredible things. I mean, after all, our bodies are not all that. They're pretty crappy, actually. But the big question is now, I think we're at the point in our evolution where we are becoming wise to the fact that our thoughts can alter who we are, can alter certain diseases, can change certain diseases. I mean, these have been scientifically proven. They're not just airy-fairy, silly, hippie ideas anymore. These are now being scientifically proven that thoughts can have an effect on our genes and on our lives.
Even if that effect is a placebo effect.
Even if it's a placebo.
It's affecting your genetic system.
So I think we'll kind of wind it up there for today. I think we've said a lot. We've talked a bit about epigenetics and mood swings and God knows what else.
We've got 2 snoring
Anything
dogs
else?
and photography shoots and challenging shooting schedule.
Well, it's been an absolute pressure, as it always is.
He took such shit. He took such rubbish.
I'm
allowed to say that apparently 3 times in a video.
Yeah, before you get slapped.
Before I get slapped, yeah.
Anyway, we'll see you next time.
Ciao. Bye, everyone.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll catch you next time. Please remember to subscribe to our channel, and you all have a lovely day.